Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well. you for tuning in to Exeter TV. The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16.
Okay, good evening, Exeter. Good evening to my colleagues on the board, respected town staff, and welcome to the February 7th, 2022 Town of Exeter Select Board meeting. First, we're going to go into non-public briefly and then commence with our regular meeting. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A, 32A.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Madam Clerk.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Clerk says aye, Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. We'll be non-public. Thank you. Okay, good evening again, everyone, and welcome to the regular portion of the February 7th, 2022 Town of Exeter Select Board meeting. I'd like to start by introducing the board. Selectwoman Levy Round-Triola, good evening.
Good evening.
And the Vice Chair, Selectwoman Molly Cowan, good evening.
Hi, everyone.
And our Clerk, Selectwoman Julie Gilman.
Good evening.
Our Town Manager, Mr. Russ Dean.
Good evening.
Recording Secretary, Joanna Bartel, good evening. Good evening. And I'm Nico Papakostendis. Okay. We will jump in. Our board interview is postponed. This is, we'll start with public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to weigh in, and I don't see any public here. So before we move on, I don't have a public comment, but I have just a quick PSA. I've had a lot of questions and emails the last couple days about absentee ballots, and I communicated with the town clerk, and the town clerk has requested that those interested in receiving an absentee ballot send that request to the town clerk's office now, and that when the ballots are ready, they will immediately be sent out to those who have requested absentee ballots. There are three ballots, of course, the town ballot, the co-op, and the Exeter school, and the ballots cannot go to the printer until all the deliberative sessions have been held. And of course, the town of Exeter's deliberative session was Saturday, the co-op was yesterday, and I believe the Exeter school is tomorrow. Once the schools, the co-op and the Exeter schools send in the ballots, they can go to the printer, and the town clerk estimated that they'd probably be ready 2 to 3 weeks before the election. So the public service request is if you do, or you are interested in receiving an absentee ballot, please send that request into the town clerk's office now, and they will get that to you immediately upon receipt and give you plenty of time to get back in. So, thank you. We do not have any proclamations or recognitions this evening. So at this time, I would ask the board if there are any amendments or revisions to the regular meeting minutes of the Exeter Select Board meeting of January 31st, 2022. And seeing none, then I would entertain a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of January 31st, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. There are no appointments, so we can jump right into our discussion items. First is our COVID-19 update, and we have Fire Chief Wilking here. Good evening, Chief Wilking.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Board, and Russ. Fire Chief Eric Wilking, EMD. Quick update, and this week we were able to get it in the packet, so you've had a chance to look at it, but we have had a chance to look at 4 weeks of data now, and James and I have chatted. It looks like the numbers in Exeter are trending as they are statewide and nationwide, from a high of 273 town residents testing positive to only 111 last week. Just to put in perspective, a year ago, the number was like 12 in a week, not 111. So they're still large, but they are moving in the right direction. A lot of phone calls come into the firehouse about when would we recommend, lifting the mask ordinance and things of that nature, the mask regulation, right? And of course, that is your decision to make. We hear nationwide and statewide discussion about what would trigger that. I made a comment at the last session, and I'll repeat it here. The state is changing how they're gathering data and how they're going to disseminate data, and that is held true this week. For this week's numbers, the 111 was through Thursday, which is a common practice of writing a report on Friday, but we have received no new data since Thursday. So as predicted, I believe the state is gathering data, is going to try to do a weekly push of that data as opposed to daily. So it's going to make it difficult to see real trends, if you will, and see if we're still targeting, and dropping in the right direction. Mm-hmm. But for the time being, I think the town's moving in the right way, the state's moving in the right way. Hospitalizations have dropped way below 200 now, so everything is leading us to believe that the peak of the Omicron has peaked, and now we're either plateauing or dropping off, which is all good news for Exeter. Mm-hmm. So.
Right. Thank you. Any questions or comments for the chief? Chief, what are you seeing from other communities that may have a mask regulation or mask ordinance or anything of that type?
James and I found nobody who has relaxed it or rescinded it, if you will, as of today. Some of the larger communities are discussing it within the next 30-day period, and I know, correct me if I'm wrong, ours, without action, goes till March 21.
21st, correct.
In that neighborhood. So just looking ahead, and knowing what we have coming before us, we have the deliberative session was held. Now we have the vote. A lot of people, small area, a lot of workers, volunteers. I don't think it would be too much to ask that the mask ordinance remain in effect, or mask regulation remain in effect through minimally the vote. And then we can come back and discuss with you around March 21 if many other communities are doing it. I know I caught a loop of the national news, and there are states far away from New England that have made decisions to kind of relax it, and some of the CDC, the doctors you see constantly paraded out on that news loop have said they feel it's a little bit premature. The data really isn't in, and I would echo that here. It's great to see the numbers, but I think until we see another few weeks or a month and maybe get way down below 100 and keep moving down, then we can really discuss how safe we are and what's going on. But I know I echo the public. I want to take a mask off too. We all want it to go away, but the question is, when is that a good idea? When is it truly safe? And stay the course, do what we can, love one another, all the good stuff, and maybe after the town vote we can discuss whether we continue it beyond that March 21 sunset that we have right now. So nobody's repealing it just yet.
I think that's a sound suggestion. I think, I'd like to hear from the rest of the board, but I think where we have a board meeting scheduled for March 14th, that would be maybe an appropriate time to have you and James give an update. It's after the election, and
I think that makes perfect sense.
Regulation expiring, then the board can think about next steps.
That's fine with me. That makes total sense.
I will not be here that day.
Okay.
I thank you, sir.
I have faith, though, in you guys deciding.
Chief Wilking, thank you. Next, we have one of our local state representatives who reached out, or has been reaching out to the town manager and I, and we thought it would be a nice idea for him to come and introduce himself to us and to the public. Due to COVID, we didn't get a chance to spend a whole lot of time with you, but tonight we have Representative Mark Paige with us. And so good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to take the opportunity to introduce myself. I feel like with COVID, the time has new meaning. I feel like it's been like almost a year, but I feel like it could have been 10 years or 10 days. I'm not sure which anymore. So I have been meaning to reach out and just sort of let folks know who I am. I am the newest state rep from Exeter. We've got a great group that goes up there, including one of your members who wears many hats in this town, and one is also state rep when she's not select board person. So, and that's Julie Gilman. So all the good stuff, she sits on the municipal committee. She gets all the good stuff for relevant to your work, and I'm sure, to the board work, and is able to help you with that. I sit on the Judiciary Committee, which also gets a fair amount of work on issues that impact the board and town divisions and the general public as well. So my intent was to sort of introduce myself again to you all and folks out there, and let them know who I am, and I'm here to help as I can. I'm as Julie knows, it's organized chaos some days up there in Concord with 400 of us or so. But it's an honor to go up there and represent Exeter, to be honest with you, with, again, a great crew of representatives that are really remarkable. So I'm happy to let you know about anything we've got. We did have a few bills that impact town divisions that came through the Judiciary Committee. We had one that might be relevant to this board, was the right to know and attorney-client privilege, which you may be aware of. There was a Supreme Court case, the state Supreme Court, the Hampstead issue, and you may already know about this, but we had that. That has not moved out of committee. My understanding is the prime sponsor is preparing an amendment to that. And then there was also another bill dealing with public comment and right to know requests, which did get, as you may already know this, but an amendment to limit, it was to sort of guarantee certain public comment in certain areas and at every meeting and blah, blah, blah. And it was amended so it would only apply at this point to school boards. So, but who knows? One thing I've learned is that you can't really predict many things because you never know what rabbit is going to get pulled out of a hat. So that's sort of a couple of business items relevant to the board. But I'm happy to try to continue to establish a relationship with the folks in the town, with you all, and however I can help. So that's why I'm here. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Any questions or comments for Representative Paige?
I don't know that I have a question. It's just so nice to see you here. Thank you so much for coming. And, we are always happy to have visitors, especially ones who are working so hard on our behalf in Concord. So thanks for being here. And I know that Julie, Selectwoman Gilman, sits on the really relevant committees, but sometimes it's really nice to be able to just be like, hey, please
Tell me about this project.
tell us about this one. And then anytime you need help, signing in for things or, ways that you think that Exeter residents should be motivated and mobilized, please reach out. And this is a really great opportunity to reach a broad spectrum of people who are watching these meetings.
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of my purpose of coming today too. So I appreciate it. And it is terrific to meet you and, not meet you, but see you in person. It feels like it's
very virtual world.
It's weird, as we all know. But it's been my honor. And to your point, Molly, and Julie's got committee work. I mean, this is just my committee. We've got 40-something bills, and it's, 900 or something?
100.
Yeah, we do have more. So this was just the ones that we're dealing with. So there's so many things to keep track of that the more hands on deck, the better it is to sort of say, hey, did you see this one? And it's really helpful. So, but anyways, thank you.
Mr. Dean, did you have anything for
Just going back to the public comment, Bill, was that the 15-minute guaranteed public comment period in a meeting?
Yes, there's a couple floating around. The one we dealt with had a minimum of an hour public comment at every meeting with a guarantee of, I believe, no less than 3 minutes. What I think for your purposes, at least in town government, it was amended to exclude town government, I think, because what we were hearing in testimony was it was driven out of a concern for public comment at the school board level. So the bill was amended to try to deal with that more narrow intent. There may be other ones that are there in different places at different times, but for I guess for the town purposes, town meetings and things like that, that's where it stands now. Now it could, who knows what happens? We'll vote on it later in February. So, and I don't know what happens when the PBS special, when a bill becomes law and goes over the Senate side, who knows? But yeah, it's just interesting to hear it narrowly focused towards school boards, where under Right to Know there are so many public bodies that exist, right? So you wonder how something like that could function. But that's, I guess, for the sausage makers to decide how that works. Yeah, I don't know what exactly. I think through the hearing, it was just sort of the narrowness. The driver to it was some concern about public comment at school boards, and it felt the amendment has tried to address what seemed to be the purpose of an overarching bill that would have touched every town board or town meeting. So
Yeah, you had 3 bills, I think, that had to do with some kind of school board issue. I know I had one today, and they said this is the 4th one, and Judiciary had the other 3, and they don't know why we didn't get them in municipal and county. But forgive me if I'm mistaken, because it was a long day there, and we heard so many bills, I'm not sure which one they made that comment on anymore. But did you have other, you had the public comment one, did you have
We had
any
the
other?
public comment one. Off the top of my head, I believe there was at least one other. If you ask me the specifics of it at this point, I won't be able to tell you right off, but I can get that to you.
That's okay, I know they were all voted inexpedient to legislate.
Oh, they were? Okay. Yeah, and I know that we've only hit like 20, we only voted on 20, at least to move out of committee in one way or another, out of about 50. So there could be more.
Yeah, Judiciary has a lot of important bills this year, and if it's not too late, I guess, maybe at the next meeting, if we don't have a whole lot of work to do, I can show where the remote sign-ins are, so people can see all the different, I've got a slide of just where to look at things and what buttons to click so you can submit your opinion, whether you support or oppose a bill, and also to submit written testimony.
It's really, if you don't mind my saying, that piece has changed quite a bit for the better, in my view, in the short time that I've been there. We did have another bill dealing with virtual public meetings, which I think Representative Simpson was a prime sponsor on, who's also a rep from Exeter, that was in Judiciary. And that did not come out of committee favorably, in my view, unfortunately. But you don't know what happens when it gets to the whole floor. But the chief and I were just mentioning, I hope I don't step out of turn, but how some of the public the virtual access has helped with places that really struggle to get a quorum for committees, just because we're a volunteer community, and that's what we rely on. So sometimes people can't make meetings to get that quorum and get the business done. So that was one other bill that was important and relevant, I think.
One of the things about the remote testimony is sometimes you'll see, we had one bill in municipal and county that had over 300 opposed, plus a 1,200 person petition, and 15 votes in favor of it. So it's kind of clear what the people of New Hampshire want to see, which is not what that bill was. So that the remote sign-in is actually very important for me, looking just beyond Exeter, because the laws that we're trying to pass affect the whole state. I have to see if they're good for Exeter, and good or not, and then look beyond Exeter and see because we get a lot of bills that involve doing a favor for one person, and they don't work for the whole state. So
yes, yeah, and I'll just add, I don't want to take more of your time, but one other thing that to Julie's point is, and I encourage everybody in the public, there are many bills, but there are ways that you can express your opinion, and it matters. Whatever your issue is, whatever your bill is, or it has become easier, and it's still to register that. Julie mentioned that at the end of every hearing, we'll close the hearing, and the clerk will notify how many folks are in favor or against the bill, and people do pay attention because that is some indicator of what the broader sentiment is on a bill that's not narrowly tailored to someone's particular interest, but more affects people at large. So I think it's folks out there, it is available, and it is important. So, Thank you for having me. If there's any other questions,
No, thank you. We were delighted to have you. I'm glad you reached out, Representative Paige, and I'd just like to add, we do have Selectwoman Gilman here, but if there's anything, that on your committee work that we can do to help you, please reach out if you need any testimony from us or anything like that. Or if you'd just like to come to a meeting and give us an update on what you're working on, always happy to have you. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Again, it's just an honor, so I appreciate it, and please reach out with anything. So
and thank you for the work you're doing on behalf of Exeter.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Mr. Dean, if we could include that at our next meeting for Selectwoman Gilman, maybe at the end of the meeting not at the end of the meeting, but.
I don't want to do it.
To demo the electronic voting or the electronic testimony.
The slide or something.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's important.
Sure.
For folks.
I know I've weighed in on a couple of bills already with that, using that instrument, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so next on the agenda is deliberative session review. As you know, we had the deliberative session. Deliberative session was held for the town of Exeter Saturday morning. I believe the town moderator said there were about 50 some odd people, excluding staff, indoors, and then another 20 to 30 outdoors. So I think there was a total of somewhere in the 80s for attendance, both indoors and outdoors. So, which again is light compared to years past, but I think given we're still in the pandemic, it was an improvement over last year, where I think we only had about 30 or 40. So it was nice to see more folks out coming to the mic and speak. All of the warrant articles will be going on the ballot. There was an attempt to make an amendment to the warrant article relative to Swayze Parkway, which did not succeed. And then there were several amendments to the last warrant article, which is the citizens petition. And Mr. Dean, I believe Mr. Elliott's own amendment passed, if I'm remembering correctly. I think he just changed some of the numbers.
Right. The estimated tax impact was amended, and the method of funding was clarified from multiple sources to one, general taxation. So that's actually one article, part of the board's process. I know Selectwoman Gilman knows this. When articles are amended, and I think the moderator made a note of it on Saturday, it comes back to the board for if you want to do anything differently. I'm not sure that you do on this one, but just it's the only article that was amended. So it's a question back to the board as to whether you want to do anything with it at this point.
Well, a question I think back to you would be, can we do that on a citizens petition?
It's a money article, and again, it's been amended, so it's up to you how you want to handle it, whether you want to just leave it as is, or you want to take some kind of a different position on it.
Thoughts from the board. This was the citizens petition that the board voted 0 to 4 not to recommend to the voters. Excuse me. And I believe the amendment to the warrant to the citizens petition did not change the intent of the petition, but rather as Mr. Dean said, that the funding would come from general taxation, and it changed or corrected the tax value. But the spirit and the intent of the article remain the same. Thoughts?
Well, I think that even with those amendments, our discussion before the deliberative session about that this is kind of premature, and we're concerned about other neighborhoods just coming out and saying, put us at the top of the list. And even if we do this, it's not necessarily going to happen before. We already have this on the list of roads and sidewalks to improve. And I think even with this article passing, it still won't happen any sooner than what our schedule has.
Other thoughts?
No.
There's also something that came from DPW Director Perry as well. I asked her to give me some feedback on a particular issue on Washington Street, and that's with the sewer. And I'll just relay back, if the board will indulge me for just a minute, that she says we have not done an updated inspection of the sewer. I believe it was last televised and inspected in 2016, and it would need to be done again. There would also have to be an inspection of drainage, mains, manholes, and catch basins, not just for condition assessment, but because whenever there are changes or additions to sidewalks and curbs, there will be changes or additions to inlets and catch basins, and we should review any opportunity for inclusion of BMPs for stormwater nitrogen reduction. So she goes on to describe a little bit more in detail I'd call it the depth of what's needed to do a complete project, and it's not necessarily just about $260,000 that you throw at a road. There's a lot of different elements that go into a project.
Well, I think, and that's not to even mention, I'm sure there are gas lines there that would have to be looked at, and I think she's absolutely right that if you threw $250,000 to improve just the surface road and the sidewalks, and then 3 or 4, or I don't know how many number of years, could be 1 or 2 years, you do an analysis, and now all of a sudden you've got to rip up what you've just spent
Right.
$1 million on. It just doesn't make sense. And I think taking the approach that Public Works did with, let's say, for example, on this year's Warren West Side Drive, makes more sense. And I think that for the short term, we have the police department look at the speed study. And I think Chief Poulin came and addressed us in late November with the results of the speed study. And the speed study that he gave us, that was in our packet, I think is more accurate than sometimes is represented in terms of the percentage of speeders. And I think that we then, since as a board, took that street as part of the collection of streets that were reviewed and updated the ordinance. So, I think from a short-term safety standpoint, we've done that. And I would hope that Director Perry would continue to work with folks and maybe move this up the list, or at least advise when it would be addressed on the list. I think we can owe that to the neighborhood, is just give them, be a little transparent as to, realistically when the street's going to be looked at, so that they have some sort of idea. I think I can appreciate their frustration that it's been on the list for some years and they haven't heard anything. So those are my thoughts.
Yes, I agree.
And I just think it's not the best practice to recommend a citizen's petition for a neighborhood raising an appropriate this amount of money without having Public Works do their due diligence. And I think it just leads to a dangerous path that other neighborhoods, everybody's neighborhood is important, but there's just so many dollars annually, and there's so much work that can be done. So, do we need to take, Mr. Dean, another formal vote on the amendment, or?
No, if the wishes of the board are to take no further action, you take no further action.
Yeah.
All right, consensus? Okay. Reach out to my colleagues on the board. Did anybody have any comments specifically about deliberative session or any of the warrant articles?
Thought it went smoothly.
We talked about absentee ballots earlier in the meeting. Mr. Dean, do you have any reflections?
I don't have anything to add, except just I wanted to say thank you to our town moderator, who I thought did an excellent job.
First
Kate
time
Miller.
out.
She did a great job. She did a wonderful job yesterday at the
She did.
at the school co-op deliberative session. And also thank Chief Poulin and Detective Paige, who were there, and Chief Wilking was there, and Bob Glowacki and the IT department, and the assistant moderators who froze outside for those folks that attended deliberative session from the outside. One last thought, for those that didn't see the deliberative session, the annual report this year was co-dedicated to 2 volunteers, longstanding with the town, Gwen English and Eileen Flockhart. So congratulate them and thank them for their service. Okay. Jumping into regular business, we met just last week, so we don't have any tax abatements, credits, exemptions, permits, and approvals. So, Mr. Dean, we've seen a lot of you in the last couple of days, but I don't know if you have anything else to report.
Yeah, I wanted to report just that I attended a conference call with Congressman Pappas today, and he was talking about the continuing resolution and the hope to sort of undo the logjam on that. Hopefully by next week we'll begin to hear more about where that might be headed.
Okay.
And obviously that $600,000 that we're looking for the siphons project's a big part of that. So there's that. And then I was also on a conference call with One Sky Community last week, talking about just interested in finding a location for their organization in Exeter. They do a lot of work with underserved youth and adults, and seems like a good organization. And then I also wanted to let the board know, too, that today we received a letter of resignation from our finance director, Doreen Chester. After 14 years, Doreen has decided to depart, and she let me know that this morning, and so that's, want to thank her for her 14 years with us and all the hard work that she put in over the years.
Yeah, I remember during the early years after, like, the first year she was here, our audits hadn't been completed or improved on for like 3 years, and along with the current one that she had to produce, she also did the other 3 years, I think, within 2 years. And I was very impressed, and we came out more favorably after that was all accomplished, so I thank her very much.
Mr. Dean, when's her last day?
February 18th.
Okay, so 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
All right, and you'll work on a plan to update the board at our meeting on the 22nd?
Yes.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, she's departing before we meet again, but certainly we wish her the very best of everything in her future endeavors. Thank her for her service here, and I know, speaking from the years that I chaired the Budget Recommendations Committee, she was extremely helpful, anything that I ever needed, and we'll miss her.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I had for tonight.
Okay. Select Board Committee reports, Selectwoman Gilman?
I had no committees, but I have several coming up this week. The Heritage Commission is meeting to further discuss the Park Street neighborhood heritage area, which I will comment on at the meeting. Then Wednesday night is the Heritage Commission. Thursday is a Facilities Committee where we'll be discussing, I forget what, I just got the agenda. And
The assessment, I'm sure, will come up.
yes, the assessment and what we're looking forward to there. And also the HDC is meeting for continued discussion on the Front Street project for the Baptist Church, and also the Academy's project for 8 Gilman Lane. And then at the State House today, we heard a bill that mandates towns to let any residential property that is attached to municipal water and sewer by right be allowed to have up to four living units on it. So a single family house lot could have, split the house in two and then add on 2 extra living spaces if they meet the code requirements for setbacks and emergency services and et cetera, anything that the town has already passed as far as zoning goes. But this one is kind of controversial, but it's aimed at densifying neighborhoods, just like happened in the early stages of settling the town, that everything started in the middle and grew out. And so now we're trying to finish that process by filling in the blank spaces, or, you can't build any more downtown, so maybe just a little further out we can go. Again, it's just properties that are served by water and sewer, municipal water and sewer. So the question came up, what if I have municipal water, but not sewer, which we do have in Exeter? That wouldn't fit in application to that bill. And I think one was, how many meetings somebody who on an elected school board could miss. And it was either 2 meetings or 3/5 of the schedule. It was not very well received because of the incidences of why people might miss a meeting. And it was, again, aimed at a single town that had a problem with their school board. And, so I was not impressed by the reasoning for doing it, and I think it kind of discriminated against people that have, either small children with unexpected schedules or illnesses that they might develop after being elected. There's a provision for remote participation like we have now, but if it's 2 meetings and you have to go 3, then you're out. So that was a very interesting conversation. That's it.
Great, thank you for the update. Selectwoman Cowan.
I don't have anything to update. I do have planning board this Thursday.
Okay. And Selectwoman Rontriolov?
There is a meeting tomorrow for the Arts and Culture Committee, gosh. And then a meeting on Friday for Housing Committee.
Okay, great, thank you. The Sustainability Advisory Committee met last Tuesday, and I was not able to attend at the last minute because I had a family member that required my attention, but I confirmed with Kristen Murphy that she would be here, as well as Mr. Sharples. As it turned out, they didn't have a quorum. They still met and discussed some things, but it wasn't really a formal meeting, so they'll reconvene in March, at which time, since talked with Mr. Sharples, and we're going to work on, there's been a problem with always ensuring a quorum of in-person, so we have some ideas to try to improve that, so I'll report that back. Briefly, correspondence, we have a memo from Exeter TV, and Mr. Dean, I'm going to assume just by some of the writing that's from Mr. Glowacki. It wasn't really signed, but
Yes.
In essence, he's giving us an update on the meetings covered by Exeter TV and also some of their programming, including People of Exeter and Sounds of Swayze. And then Mr. Glowacki also gives us an update of what he's been doing as the communications coordinator. So that was nice to get an update on that. Reviewing the board calendar, we meet again on Tuesday, the 22nd, because of the holiday on the 21st. And our next meeting, or the board is next meeting on March 14th for 2 reasons. I think the first, Mr. Dean, was the 7th is the night before the election. Correct. Which can be a very long day. And also the 14th, because newly elected individuals can be sworn in. And I understand you if you have a conflict. Okay.
So we're having one the 22nd and then the 14th?
Yep.
Okay.
And usually that we could try to move something, but just the way that the election's timed, we have to meet on
Yeah,
the...
that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We've already met in non-public. Any other comments or discussion? Seeing none then, we'll enjoy an early night.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to... Oh, I'm sorry, Chief Wilkins.
A second?
Yes, please.
You just jogged my memory, and I apologize for not bringing it up sooner. As the board meeting schedule proceeds, we spoke about the fire engine and the prices being volatile and the RFP process. I have asked for the vendors, we sent out 10 letters and 10 RFPs to major manufacturers with the hopes of getting them back here at the town office by the 11th for a bid review on the 14th. Obviously, just a typical bid opening, but there could be, well, we're hoping for several, but we'll have to see. I just wanted to throw it out there that hopefully I'm not packing too much into an agenda.
No, that's important. That's important to do if that gets,
Because we need to try to turn that around early April to avoid additional price increases, and then we have to make decisions on the piece of apparatus.
Agreed.
So our hope is a couple of week review, come back to you early April for approval, or the dialogue we'll have together. So the last thing I just want to mention is Beth DePell and I spoke. Beth is the chair or the leader of the Light Committee. We want to thank all of the town comments. Facebook has been lighting up. The town loves the lights downtown, all the way from the holiday season on. It's a shame, but all good things must come to an end. We have shut the meters and the lights down downtown. We'll be taking the lights down in the near future, part of the process of being respectful of the town property and making the stuff last longer. The quicker we can get it in and back undercover, the more likely we can get it back out next year and have it be serviceable. So we'll be working through that, but we do appreciate everybody. There's people out there that want the lights on all the time, and it's really fun to see. I think it really dressed up downtown. It's a shame to shut them off, but we'll be working the next few weeks to get those down.
Okay. All right.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We adjourn. Good night. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.